It's an honor to welcome Candidate Master Clif Kharroubi, who is a remarkable chess teacher whose expertise and passion for the game have inspired countless chess players. The topic for today's lecture is learning while playing irresponsibly online. So, without further ado, let us warmly welcome Clif Kharroubi.
Okay, so thanks for that warm-up. Now, I'm going to preface this, and it seems like, I don't know, maybe the word was already out, because it seemed like attendance last time was like quite a bit. See, last time I was kind of the good cop, and I was quickly telling you what were the most expedient ways to improve your chess, okay? And everyone's kind of looking for a shortcut to success in everything. And in fact, sometimes I've dealt with students where they'll say, oh, geez, you know, in 3 months I want to play in the New York State Championship and win the open section. Okay, that's a real person, okay, and they were like 1,000 at that point in terms of strength. So that was not actually a realistic goal, okay? And I've always been one to be very candid about that and let them know about that, okay? But there are people, when I first started playing chess, for instance, there was a teacher who was very, let's say, optimistic about all of our chances to achieve success if we just did a few of the right things. And his biggest recommendation was, as white, you're going to play e4, okay? And the most common move was going to be e5. You're going to play knight f3, they would play knight c6, and now you're going to start the Scotch Gambit with d4. Because when they took, you weren't going to recapture. You're going to play bishop c4. Okay. And now, our motivation for this was to offer a gambit. Oh, sorry. It's their move. If they don't do anything, eventually we're going to play c3. But at this point, it was recommended for you to use your finger, not the mouse, but I guess the mouse in this case will have to work, and rub the b4 square. You know, you want your opponent to notice there's a possibility on b4. Okay, now you're laughing, but I went to a tournament in Syracuse, and this player was playing a player that was in the 1900s, okay, and he did exactly that, and his opponent played this move, and now, incidentally, this bishop b4 move is a fine move, okay, but it gives them the chance to go wrong after this, where his opponent said, I can just put it back on e7, and I'm solid, and I have extra stuff. And look at your pawn structure. But there's a big zinger here that kind of ends the whole game.
Queen to d5.
Yeah.
Queen d5.
Exactly. And now, knight to h6 doesn't work, okay, because we would just take it, okay. So, and the game's basically over, and I believe the game ended here, okay. So, here he had won his game like this, but it didn't have to go this way necessarily. I mean, you know, your opponents are rarely this cooperative. And a lot of times, even if they play, let's say, inferior move, you won't be able to win the game. Okay? So I want to just kind of bring out that, especially when we're playing online, we have the chance to actually get a feel for what happens in real situations and actually win those one games. And the techniques involved, it's often a little more complicated than everyone might think. A lot of times in old opening books it would say, oh, and white has a great initiative, or something just, you know, very frivolous that didn't actually mean anything, but was supposed to suffice that white's winning. It didn't mean anybody knew how to win it from there, though. And in some cases over the years, some of those lines have been, you know, refuted by computers, and it wasn't even winning. Okay, so an example of this type of scenario is a game I watched actually I was right next to it, and there was a player who will go unnamed, but he was a club champion at one point, we'll just say, and he was playing black. He's easily one of the best prepared players under the master level that I've seen in Rochester. Okay, his preparation is very, very good. And he was playing another player who was, roughly 2,000 plus, I believe. And his opponent played Ponziani. Yeah, I was having a brain issue. Okay, so when you get old, that happens. You got a few years, Jim. So, in any case, black played d5, okay, and his opponent played bishop to b5. And it's kind of funny because there's a book on this, and in the book, this is the recommended line, and this just is a losing line. But it's such a good losing line that I'd still be tempted to play it. Okay, sometimes things are a little more complicated than meets the eye. So this is given as the best play for black. Now, if anybody has played white against the Schliemann or played the Schliemann, they'll know the move here is queen to g5. Okay, which is a very aggressive-looking move. And white plays queen to a4. Now, you might say, geez, the knight on e5 is hanging. That's just a loser. White wins if you take that knight. Okay, so you went for this queen to g5. The real point's got to be queen takes g2. And now there's some questions. Can't white just crush black here? What's going on here? I mean, just bishop takes c6, that's check, right? And bc, check. And queen, check. And now we're in a position where I was watching the game, I was wondering if he would actually know the move here. And he didn't. The move is not always very visually attractive. And the move here is actually king to d8, allowing the check. Okay, because if you don't allow the check, okay, as was played in the game, he played king to e7. Okay, this is a disaster. Okay, and it starts with giving up the knight to draw the king out, and this just wins. Okay, so is there anybody doesn't feel comfortable this king is going to be checkmated? I'll go a little farther. Okay, so and even if we put the computer on, you'll see that it's mate in 8, forced. There's no escape. So d4, king to d6 is supposed to be the longest defense. Bishop check, king to c6, d5, king to b5, trying to run, when you've got all these pieces, you've got the king out there. You know what the end's going to be here. Okay, so you might say, wow, that's terrible. Here he was prepared and played the refutation, and he missed one odd move, and then he was totally lost. Wow, I remembered the move, because I remembered how stupid looking it was when I first saw it. Okay, but here's the funny caveat to it. Okay, if we to back here, and I would have played this move, okay, and allowed, it was going to be, check, king e7. Now, queen c7 check, and I would have thrown it away here, because I wouldn't have played king e8. I would have played king f6, and there's no advantage whatsoever. Okay, so, I knew the refutation, and I still wouldn't have done it. Okay, so, I mean, geez, how stupid is the guy playing the line that loses, that if his opponent doesn't find every single move, he's going to win? So maybe not so stupid. I don't know. You know. So no, it's very tough. And to me, it calls into question the whole idea. I mean, here you have a player who spends a lot of time on his openings, okay, but he even knew the refutation of this Ponziani. I mean, when you're playing double king pawn, there's at least, let's see, the Italian, the four knights, the Spanish game. These are all things that are going to, show up. I mean, you might see the King's Gambit as much as the Ponziani. It's certainly not one of the things. And he even knew it all the way, the refutation in the offline up to move A, and then immediately threw the game away. So, wow, why are we, endeavoring to play these openings so well? And I'm going to give another example of a similar, outcome. I was playing white, and this was my favorite little trick. It was also favored by the previous, the owner of the chess center, Ron Lorman. Okay, and I had this position. I believe I played it this way. And this was against a grandmaster on what they call the World Chess Network. I think it was defunct in something like 2001 or something, but it was a great place to play chess. And if you had a rating over a certain, you could play in what would be equivalent to like the title Tuesday. Okay, and so here I was getting to play a grandmaster. Okay, I was super excited about all of this. Okay, and this was my favorite trick. Okay. Black gets to play this seemingly crushing-looking move, attacking my queen, and I'm just going to let them. Okay, and they play check, and they attack their knight, and they take a rook, and don't play rook g8. There was a very strong player who played rook g8. He'll go unnamed, though. He doesn't remember it anymore because he's too good. Okay, you do have to play rook f8 to stop the mate. Exchange, and now bishop to g5, forcing bishop to e7, rook to f1. This all looks, now nobody, if they play queen d4 here, I'm asking what engine they're using. Nobody's playing that here. Okay, and the GM didn't play it either. Okay, he played this move, and even I was able to actually win the game after this. But, that being said, there was another game where he fell into this, but didn't completely fall into it, and he still drew it or something. But, now here's the funny part. This exact position almost was in a game with Ron, and that same player who was the victim of the winning position, okay, that he achieved and just missed a move. He actually played the mistake in this line, okay, where he said, what, can't I just play knight here and win stuff? Your position looks silly. You can't castle. I'm threatening stuff like knight f2. Joe, what rule has Black violated here? Jim?
Move the piece twice in the opening.
Right. What's he doing?
Hold on.
He's black. He's black, and he's moving the same piece twice without completing his development. That's not right. Yeah, Joe.
Cliff.
What he said?
No, I understand. But aren't there times when it's okay to move your piece twice?
Yes, precisely. That's precisely true. But that's when it causes your opponent an undue, what do you call it? When they have to make an undue concession in order to deal with the threat, like in the knight g5 line into two knights, which here we can just roll.
It does look threatening.
Okay, it looks threatening, but so if we look at the two knights variation, we're actually winning material by force almost with this second move. because there is no convenient way to deal with the threat to f7. Whereas in the other position, if we look at what should have happened, okay, it's a big difference because of the fact forgive me for the move order. This isn't the exact move order in that game because Ron played a slightly different move order than I did, and I didn't. I played my move order. Sorry. Okay, but it reaches the same position. Now this, as was stated, looks very dangerous, but White doesn't have to actually answer any of Black's threats. He can start making his own. Okay, and after knight g5, it looks like there'd only be one move to consider if you're Black, right? Does anybody have any candidate moves for Black? Castle. Yeah, everyone in the house is saying, I'm just going to castle. Then try to solve all your issues. The problem is White actually has ways to do that. And he plays f5, which blocks off the protection of the knight. So now the knight is on its own, and it opens up the line for the dark square. The line for the queen is open. The h-pawn's ready to roll. There's all this possible attacking going on. And even with the computer defense, okay, after king f1, we've got hanging piece on g4 and hanging piece on f2. It's a little bit of a problem. So Black tries to solve the problem, and I'm not positive that this isn't exactly the position that was achieved in the game.
Why not the knight fork? It's the bishop there.
Okay. So if this happened, oh, sorry.
Put the bishop back.
Right, yeah. Okay, so if the knight, you're worried about the fork, we're going to get off one piece, right, and we're threatening mate.
Yes.
And we're also threatening,
Destruction.
yeah, so, and you can see the evaluation went to +5. You know, no, this game's over. I mean, there's no good answers here. Okay, but that being said, the other line, not quite so clear. You know, I mean, optically, and even the computer says, oh, it's a small edge. It's a small edge, but this is really lights out if White plays all the moves. Okay, but Black has to maintain his pieces. So he plays this, takes, and now the key move here, h4, okay, and Black wins this pawn. But here's the amusing part here. White plays the best move, rook h5, everyone's playing that, okay, and if, for instance, you know, let's say there's a check, not everyone is, you know, we could just do this, but if, for instance, we played the queen here, okay, and went back, we're not going to go for a rep, right? Knight d5, and if knight to a5 is the most common move, right? Because I was saying to myself when I was looking at this, okay, now knight c7 is so good, okay, but look at it, it's kind of funny, okay, this is taken, okay, and now queen to f4, oh, sorry, okay, so if we look at this position, Black, they chose to save the rook. Did White win any of these games? No. You see these guys are 23, 2,500, and they're not even winning this game. So how hard is chess? No, I mean, people say, oh, I want to play attacking positions and things like that. You know, like that's going to be easy. It doesn't necessarily make things more clear.
King 50 is a big issue for White.
Well, and see, here's the thing. White has to understand the ending. So if we're going to look at this, let's say we were to ask a national master. National master, what would you think, okay, in this position, is Black's biggest challenge?
I think the development. Just move the pieces.
Development, specifically?
Basically, the bishop.
The light squared bishop stinks.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a problem.
Yeah.
we've got the worst piece on the board. Now, if you look at the computer, it knows that's with 2 pawns. That's a hugely bad piece. It's not a little badly, it just stinks outright.
Yeah.
Just terrible. But as humans, we make a little mistake here or there, all of a sudden, black's not just holding, they're winning this game. Which is actually, in that game, that player actually won the game against Ron. Ron had numerous chances in the end. But, I mean, that just talks about the level of, complexity. You can get this overwhelming position to actually finish people off is hard. So people a lot of times, I can't play end games or things like that. And that's what I kind of wanted to poke at. Even those people who say, end games, I'm just not good at end game, and that's the wrong attitude. Okay, you see, it's the people, even if they're, let's say, less experienced or younger players, if they take the end game on as a challenge, like, okay, now I'm ready to play. This is, I'm going to show them something here, and they have the right attitude. A lot of times they can be incredible players in the end game, but it's because of that confidence, not anything other than that. Whereas their opponent's going, oh, geez, it's not an end game. I'm never comfortable in the end game. So just psychologically welcoming that yes, I'm in an end game is a huge way to improve your chess. Okay, so I wanted to show.
So what does black do for you?
Black's bad here. Okay, so like here's a big point here. It's not like the king safety. You might, so like if black checks here, we're actually not playing like rook here to keep the queens out. No, we're fine because we're very happy to trade these. And the weakness of the d pawn, the poor bishop. This is an overwhelming advantage for white. It's really lights out.
I mean, if that bishop's worth 2 pawns, though, then why not take on f5 if you go back to before queen f4 check? Just sack that bishop for those 2 pawns,
Okay,
and
so
then the king is really open.
okay, so you know you've got a rook hanging on a8 too.
Yeah, but we already said that rook b8 is what has the...
Okay, so let's say we just don't even.
Because then if they take on a8, you take again, and now you've got pieces swarming around.
Okay, so let's. Oh, black is actually winning here after bishop takes rook. Okay, no, that would be too bad. Okay, so let's say we just see. I always like to be the devil's advocate, but it's not going to work there. Okay, but here there's really no follow-up because we always have the interposition on f3 either with the queen or the rook. Okay, the rook's still hanging. We're ready to play the knight to d5. Okay, so I mean, there's not. Black doesn't have any counterplay for the piece. And the piece with this number of pieces on, the piece is always way better than the pawns. You have to go a long ways before the pawns start to overtake the piece. So it's not that close. I mean, even sometimes having 4 or 5 pawns, it's the side with the piece will just crush you. But in any case, so if we go back, okay, we're playing in like the most aggressive, combative way possible in terms of trying to attack and keep pieces on. Games like the Vienna game, and I mean, we actually were playing a King's Gambit decline position by transposition in the one position. The Ponziani these are very combative openings, okay? But there's other ways to play, okay, that can be just as effective or more effective and can actually allow you to develop different chess skills. And especially when you're playing online, you're experimenting. So, if you try something new, if you're, experimental and it doesn't go right, big deal. See, that's kind of like the point, that you can do all those things, that you don't have to just play the same way you play in a rated game. No, you can try things out. Now, I was going to suggest, because of the fact most people tend to embrace attacking, aggressive positions like that versus a more technical approach with an endgame, for instance. Now, I'll give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. So, if we play e4, which is very aggressive even, okay, and they play the card, if we play, like, probably the most aggressive way for white to play here is the advanced variation. And we get very aggressive attacking lines and things like that. You know, in fact, maybe another time, or if we have time, I'll show a very aggressive line I played against a very strong player here. Got an overwhelming position, and I managed to hold the draw. In any case, this is not what I'm talking about. So this player actually was very worried about this continuation. Now, what would be some candidate moves here from, anyone?
Bishop D4.
Bishop G4. Okay, Bishop G4 is a fine move, but, what's your purpose? Are you ready? If they play H3, are you ready to just give the bishop up right away, or?
I'd go to G6 and keep pressure on E4 that way.
Okay, so you're going to continue backing up here.
And I would be willing to go to G6 with it.
Okay, so the computer's suggesting, and it looks like a very interesting plan, is what the computer is saying is, we're going to try to say your bishop is going to run out of squares, because we are going to play G4, okay? And then it's going to be caught over here on the side, and it's going to be, blunted. It's not really very active from that. But, it's a common thing that happens in chess a lot. But, even that, this isn't terrible, because your plan is to play E6, obviously. And you're going to have your pawns on the light squares, your bishop developed outside your pawn chain. There's a sense to it, okay? But, that being said, okay, that's not the most popular way to play. In fact, almost universally, and this is for players only over 1600, and in fact, if we take out the 16 and 1800s and make it only players over 2000, okay, this is still DE hugely the most popular move. Okay, now you might say, why? Okay, why is white taking the queens on, okay, and losing the right to castle, and why would this be a good idea?
Your white's pieces are probably quicker.
Are they? I mean, it's black's move right now. I mean, isn't black attacking after, like, just knight f6?
E5.
Well, actually, e5 I think would be a positional error.
It's getting too far.
Well, yeah, and I would say it's going to, it can't be held by any other pawns. The knight is ready to be pinned, potentially. I don't know. I would be worried about it. In general, the move here is not even knight b to d2, which is actually recommended by GM in a course. But the way Anish Giri played this against, I think, Nipanichi, I think he played here. Okay. And the idea is that he wants to put this knight on a good square. This wasn't even a good square. Okay. But he's going to be able to put that pawn on f3. And when he does, that takes away all the squares for the light squared bishop, and the dark squared bishop's not even developed yet, and where is it going to have any purchase? It's not so clear that the bishop on the dark squared bishop is going to light the world on fire either. Okay, and like if you look at some of the most popular moves, and even in the master database, what's the most popular move? G5. Who's playing G5? Okay, if I want to check their phone. Okay, if they're playing G5. Okay, that doesn't look like anything human came up with. Okay, it's the move. Okay, that's the best move. That's in fact G5 is the reason that the GM who has a course on this recommends this move. He says, why am I giving up control of the G5 square and moving my knight? Okay, so that's his, but Anish is 100 points higher rated than him, so maybe he knows something he doesn't. So in any case, let's see. So the point is here, I think, is that white is going to be able to adopt a very flexible, very simple structure where black's counterplay is actually going to be very hard to find. It's hard to find moves like G5. Okay, it's not so easy to decide what black's going to do. And if you look at the win rate in this, in the Masters database, 526 games, 42% wins for white, 44% draw, 14%. That is miserable. I mean, statistically, that's very good players are struggling in this position. And in fact, the very good player that I talked to about this, he was worried about this, and I said, okay, so don't play that way. I said, why don't if they play D3, right? If you play D5 and they play D3, why don't you just play G6? Okay. Now, are you fully equal? No. Are you much worse? No. Are you going to get to play chess? Yeah. Okay. But that being said, I mean, if, for instance, especially when you're online, let's say you were to adopt this strategy all the time as white, do you think you might grow to really understand the nuances of a position like this? Go ahead, Joe.
Cliff, I don't get it. I don't get it because none of his pieces on the king side.
Okay, let me ask you this.
And then
Let me ask you this. How many moves is it going to take black to be able to castle?
I'd say 3.
Yeah, quite a bit. Now, if white just plays C3 and king C2, is his king
But
going to be...
you're saying he's going to cast on queen side.
Watch. Okay, so we're just burning moves right now. You play this, and we play here. Okay? Now, we agreed it was going to be like 3 moves, 4 moves minimum for black to be able to castle. After black castles, is this king going to be any better than that king is right there? I did it in 2 moves. That's a big advantage right there, right? I'm ready to support the D file and try to fight for the only open file in the position. Okay? So that's one of the nuances in the position. And see, that's what I'm trying to argue is sometimes chess doesn't have to be like big explosions. Sometimes it can be a subtlety like this where it's just I have a little more mobility with my king. Okay? I can bring my pieces to good squares a little faster. And just to illustrate how toxic this can be for the other player if they're trying to find moves, let's try something out. This is a very common endgame-oriented position here. E4, and this is frequently reached with D4 too. Okay? And what's white's move going to be here? D4. I mean, 99% of the time, it's what people play. And now, black says, oh, I'm going to attack your pawn. White says, I know how to develop towards the center and guard my pawn. This is all ABC chess, right? And then black acts like kind of a loser and just plays this E5 move. What's the point of that? What are we playing here? Pawn takes, right? I mean, that's if we look at the stats. Okay, let's look on Lead Chess for players. Well, this is players only over 2,000. Okay, it's still the favorite, DE. Okay, so it's not like only bad players are playing. No, this is what everyone pretty much plays until you get to a very high level, and then it's very close even. And is it wrong to play DE? No. But let's take a look at what's involved when this happens. Okay, so let me just hide this stuff. Okay, so if we're white, and we don't know anything more than we just stole the right to castle from our opponent, we think we're a lot better here, obviously. How are we going to play this? Somebody's got some move candidates? What's
Bishop G5 and the
Bishop
long
G?
castles.
Bishop G5 is, I think, if you look at, you know, players even maybe just over 1600 and up, that's the most popular move. Okay, easily. I mean, what else, right? It's putting a pin, we're developing a piece, we're preparing to go queenside, look up that king in the center, right?
Yeah.
Come on. Chess is an easy game. We feel like Paul Murphy here, right? Okay, we're killing.
Ready.
Okay, so what could Black possibly think he's going to be able to do about this? Ignore him. He's just going to develop. He's just going to put his bishop on e6, okay? So, wait a minute. He puts his bishop on e6. Can White do anything about this, guys? Let me just...
What if we do C4 instead of G5? The other bishop attack at 1.
Okay, I'll come back to it. That's an excellent question. There's an answer to it, but that's an excellent question. Okay, because that's actually considered the very best move. Okay, but that being said, even players, if you're probably even in this room, which isn't average, I say it's slightly above average in terms of rating. Okay, players far higher than this choose this Bishop G5 move. Okay, it's very common at higher levels. Okay, so we play Bishop C4. I mean Bishop E6. We've stopped Bishop C4. What's White going to do? Long castle. Come on. It's with check. I mean, who isn't playing that?
Certainly tempting.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, it's got to be the move. Okay. Now, let's say Black says, "Yeah, I see it. I'm moving out of check. I'm not hanging my king." Okay. Now, what's the move? Okay. Well, I mean, is it tough? I mean, we're playing chess here.
Gotta bring the knight out, right? D5.
Knight F3. Okay. If Knight D5.
I'm not a fan.
Is this an issue? I'm not sure. The e-pawn is the e-pawn hanging? I don't think there's any tactics.
Taking on F6 and then Knight D5 would be better.
Okay. So wait a minute. We're thinking about this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
No,
I just spit it out. I mean, I didn't really calculate.
Oh no. I'm just
And then Knight D5.
Okay, Knight D5.
I don't necessarily see the big point in Knight D5.
Well, I mean, we're going to ask it to leave in a second. C6 is actually a move we want to play.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I would say we didn't really achieve anything as well.
But I also don't think a knight on F3 looks like it has much of a future.
I'll tell you, if we look at this position, Knight F3 is going to be even over 2,000. I would be shocked if it's not the most popular move.
Because now you're tapping this.
Oh, it's the most popular move. Okay, so no, because it looks very logical. You're developing and you're attacking a pawn.
Right.
It's not the best move. Okay, but
What about
it's
F3?
it's clearly the most common move. Now, F3 here, we're getting a little slow. Okay, but it's the right idea, Jim. But we'll go back to that idea in a second. Okay, so Knight F3 is easily a move that is likely to see all the way up to almost master level. Maybe even masters make this mistake. If I click off, we're only looking at 2,200 and above. Oh, geez, we still got 3,200 people who did this. Okay, so it's not a joke. No, this really happens. Okay, even players much higher rated than the average person in this room. Okay, so we know that can happen. Oh, so knight here. So how are we going to respond as okay, let me get rid of this. Okay, so if we just continue our development, now White's faced with kind of a dilemma. How does he continue his development here? I mean, is there, I mean, to me, there's one piece screaming to get in the game.
The bishop.
The bishop, right? It's on F1, but what do we do with it?
Right.
E6.
See, now, isn't this interesting? Has Black done anything, brilliant or anything? No, they just allowed White to think he was having some fun, and now we're asking White some really tough questions. Like, where does that silly bishop on F1 plan to live? Like, are we happy if it's on E2? It looks kind of pedestrian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we put it on D3, is that why we have a rook on the D file to be blocked by the silly pawn on bishop on D3? Okay.
I go B6. Or B5.
B5. Do you want to know something? It's a very common move. Don't feel bad because a lot of players like that move. Okay, now I've only got it over 2200, so if we knock it down one level, it would be more. But
I'd be willing
bishop
to
B5, what? Even players over 2, it's a terrible move. Okay, but they like it. Okay, so watch when they like it. There's C6, which that's what we want to play, right? Now, where's White going here? Now that they let us play this, are they going to put it on one of those squares they didn't like before? It would be very inconsistent. I mean, somebody should whack him in the back of the head if they did. Well, good play. You gave him C6 for free and then moved back?
You gotta go to A4.
So, I mean, if you're consistent, you're going to A4. But, wait a minute. I want... Okay, so, who's the lowest rated player in the room? Okay. Oh, I got 3 hands up. Okay. So, only you 3 can answer. If you're Black here in this position, okay, I want to know what move you think is going to overwhelm White and have him basically begging for mercy.
Maybe knight to C5.
Okay, knight to C5 looks attractive. Okay, it's attacking, the bishop won't survive, you're attacking E4, it looks like an active move. Is there something maybe a little more precise?
Bishop B4.
Who said that? That's precisely the move that just kills in this position. We're developing this piece, and now we're just threatening to destroy the pawns. And what's going to protect E4? Oh my. That looks like it's going to be a casualty. When this knight comes to C5 after we wreck here, and we hit the bishop and E4, and F2 is, oh my, this looks very bad. Yeah, it's virtually lost. This is virtually a lost position already. And which was the bad move White made? What, was it really knight F3? All these moves were made by 2200 plus as their favorite move. And look how easily they just walked into a dead lost position. Well, it's a good thing we played this really simple exchange the queens line. Yeah, they guessed that. They figured this all out, didn't they? They cracked it. Okay. No, they're just completely lost here. Right in the opening. We didn't need any big, king-side attack. When we have like 3 extra queens, we're going to win this game. Okay, because they're losing everything here. It's all going to drop. Not a lot of endgame technique needed to win a position when you're up this much. Yeah. I think, in fact, the most popular move here is bishop takes here. Now, if they played that, how would we continue and win? And let's say nobody over 1700 can answer. So just to illustrate, this isn't some deep, combination. How does Black play here?
G takes F6.
Yeah, of course. We love this, cementing our pawn, opening the G file. Okay, and now what can White play? Does White have any salvation at all? I mean, Well, I mean,
I
we
mean,
will.
we're-
If he doesn't do anything about it, do you think we might consider just bishop takes knight? Nice pawns, buddy. Okay, right? I mean, I can't see too many players holding that position after that. Do you know this is a popular move even?
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Now, if that happens though, let's go back. You've been refuting everything. What's Black's move that refutes this?
Bishop G4.
Bishop G4. It's not a bad move, but there's just game over kind of move.
Bishop A2.
Okay, Bishop A2 actually wins, but that's complicated. You're showing off when you're playing that. No, that's complex because it looks like he can almost trap you, but there's B5. No, it wins and it wins hard. It requires calculation. I wanted the simple win, anybody.
And C5.
Yeah, everyone said it. Knight C5. Yeah, it just wins, right? We're going to pick up the E pawn unless he wants to give us a bishop. It's going to be tough to deal with.
And
Right?
his bishop's going to be ugly and double the pawns.
And when the knight is sitting on E4, is F2? Oh, can we just have a passive rook to babysit that pawn? Yeah. I mean, nobody's surviving this. Okay, this is just bad. So, what was a just seemingly just simple position, and what happens? White's game just falls apart. Okay, in what was that? 6-7 moves, and it just deteriorated to nothing. And we exchanged the queens almost immediately. Seems like endgames maybe have a bad rap. I don't know. In any case, so if we go back, somebody asked,
BC4, yeah. So,
right, what would happen, okay, if they weren't good enough to find Bishop G5? And they thought, no, but if you look at the Grandmaster move, okay, the favorite move, there's still 800 Bishop G5s, in the Grandmaster database, but Bishop C4 is the best move in the #1 move. But wait a minute, if we notice this in the master database, is the score overwhelmingly in somebody's favor? No. Well, wait a minute, what is this parlor trick? So how in the world could Black find easy equality in this position? And I'm saying that it's a really loaded question actually, because if you'd studied this position, you would know that if you ask the computer and you ask Pepe Cuenca, who's a notorious Spanish GM who talks really fast and he's funny, he has a course on this, and there's a course by Luke McShane? No, Luke. He's a national master who talks like a maniac. I mean, he makes me look very silly.
You're going to play King E8
Yeah.
here?
Okay. So that's probably the computer move, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Now Pepe Cuenca recommends Bishop B4 because we're making a counter threat, obviously, on E4. Okay. It's very complicated, and I think it's much harder to play. There's just a simple answer, and here's the funny part about it. This answer, before there was good computer analysis, or even computers could beat the best grandmasters. Okay, this line was around and was considered rock solid. Okay, it's kind of like computers don't like it as much as practice showed that it was really unexploitable. And that's just Bishop E6 here. Okay, now obviously, the only way to say this move isn't right is to do what? Take it,
Double
yeah.
pawns.
Right, okay. But, when you double these pawns, what square did Black just achieve? Remember when we were looking at that Kharroubi version? What was the thing that was so important, having that really excellent outpost for the king? What square did we just get that's going to be awesome for our king now? Actually, E7.
Well, okay, but right now the king's not going to go there for bishop D6.
Right, we're going to play Bishop D6 and then King E7. And After that, there's no way for white. I mean, white only has 3 minor pieces, and how do they gang up to attack? They've got to, 2 of them have to hit e6 to even make a threat that our king has to deal with. And how could they do it? If you look at the board, they can't. Okay, it's like geometrically not possible. Okay, there isn't squares. And how can the rook attack? Yeah, maybe on move 77, okay, but by then something else might have happened, and our central preponderance might have worked in our favor by then, okay? So, and if you look, for instance, like you might say, well, yeah, isn't the proof in the practice? Okay, so let's look. Okay, in this position, overall, there's a slight advantage for white in the master database, okay? But if you look among like normal humans, slight advantage for black. Why? Because to try to prove that there's some weakness here on e6 and e5 is such a high level that most the humans you're going to have to deal with in Rochester, New York aren't going to have a clue how to do that. Okay, so you're going to have a perfectly solid position, and they're going to be going, how do I get at this guy? He played this terrible opening. Okay, exchange his queens, but how do I attack? You can't, there's nothing that's really, exposed. Okay, so there's no place for white to, I'm going to build up here, or, I'm going to pile in the D file. None of this is a factor. Okay, so you might ask, okay, if Cliff, you were faced with this, how would you play it? And I would play it this way, and I would play f3 here, which is much nicer. Remember the other lines, we always had the knight in the wrong position. And my next move is never going to be the bishop to g5. See, I think if you ask yourself, when you're going to play one of those pinning bishop moves, remember we had bishop g4 moves, and bishop g5 moves, and all those, if it's not a good idea to actually take that piece, maybe that bishop shouldn't be there. Maybe there's a better move. Okay, maybe there's something that you could have done to increase the potential of your position in a better way. Okay, so in this structure with white, the reason that I think white has a slight pull here, and the results even in Lee chess database show this, okay, are because of the fact white has a harmonious, very solid setup, and he doesn't have to do that much. Okay? I'm not white, sorry. Yeah, white. And
No weaknesses.
right, there's no weaknesses for white, but see, he's not trying to refute black's play either. Okay? This is very solid for both sides. I think, still, if you look down here, what's the result? It's still slightly in favor of black. And do you want to know what I think? I don't think that's because this position is slightly better for black. I think because when you have a position like this, that everybody knows, is this the best line? This can't be the best line. Come on, white played d6, black played d6, they allowed the exchange. There's an onus on white to prove something. The minute you have that chip on your shoulder, that's a disadvantage. It's like that guy, I'm going to beat him. I'm going to show that guy. I'm going to wipe the floor with. Isn't that the guy that always gets knocked out? Okay? The guy who's talking too much, who's asking for it. Okay? That's always, you don't want that chip on your shoulder. You want to be I'm going to try my best. That guy has a way better chance. And in this opening, you've been very passive and calm and solid and waiting for white to get a little uppity and a little funny, and it can all backfire on you.
What you're saying is white is misevaluating. Like they feel like they should be better, and so they're looking for the killer.
It happens a lot. That's what I give the result. I don't think this position is intrinsically better for either side. I think it's very close to equal. Okay, I wouldn't say that little edge for black is psychological.
Could it also be that black might think they're slightly worse? I know Lasker said like the most dangerous player is someone who's slightly losing because they don't feel like they have
it depends how people react to that. Some players who are they lash out and do something crazy. And some players will just play solid and alert, and it's the person who just thinks a lot of times like, oh, I just beat back the attack, and on that very next piece, that next move, they just hang the piece. Jeez, I knew I was getting attacked, I knew I was in trouble, then I just gave it away on the next move after I'd beaten that back. Okay, so I want to cut off the material that I'm going to be covering and kind of open the floor for any questions or comments. It doesn't even have to be related to anything covered. Okay.
I have a question, because the title of the topic, like playing Irresponsibly online, I've been trying that lately.
Okay.
And what I've been playing with is against Indian defenses with the white pieces,
Okay.
throwing the H pawn really early, like on move 2 and 3, and just playing H4, H5, H6.
Okay, so
And sometimes I get totally killed, but it's actually working out pretty well for me.
well, that's the thing. It's a very aggressive way to play. It's recommended by AlphaZero and the latest engines and things like that. That this idea, when there's a fianchettoed bishop, thrusting that A pawn, H pawn, whatever it may be, is always one of the ideas that's very dangerous. Okay, but that being said, it's your follow-up play after that that's going to determine your success. So, I mean, in itself, I would say there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, a lot of GMs, there's a repertoire on Chessable right now, and it's by GM Swirtz, or I forget how you pronounce his name, but it's a D4 repertoire, and I believe his King's Indian repertoire has a lot to do with the lines where you delay the knight on coming to F3 in favor of just jamming with the H pawn, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Excuse me, the best online sites to play Irresponsibly?
I personally, for me, I like Chess, and I'm going to tell you why. Chess.com has a lot of nice features, but for the most part, Chess has all those features for free. So, like, I had a diamond membership on chess.com, but I still found myself using Chess more because of the fact they have the player database and the, what do you call it? They analyze the games where, like, if you have to have a regular membership like Diamond or Gold or whatever to use more than one analysis in the day, whereas on Chess, anybody can use as many as they want. You want to analyze every game, you
Are
can.
you getting the analysis while you're playing, or is it?
No. It's afterwards. You can just press a button and it will analyze the game for you. So here, I'll show you. For instance, let's see. Let me just. I'll pull up.
Yeah, I've been on Chess a couple of weeks to analyze games, but I haven't played any games on it.
Okay, so let's just play this silly. And this was actually something that I was thinking about mentioning. That is kind of a funny line. That now here, the most common move is this and this, but when black plays this, look how common this is. Now, we have this set for players only over 2,200, and they all play this stupid move. They all play FE here. Now, you can't tell me that's the best move. Okay, I'm just saying, I don't think it's the best move, but, so, it's kind of silly. But, okay, so let's say we looked at this, and then we want to, okay, I have this, do you see the recording? Yeah, you see the recording thing. The recording thing's actually blocking my ability to analyze the game. So, and I can't move it. It's not like I can just slide it out of the way. But I could go under, and it says, I think, analyze the game or whatever, and you can just, like, press a button, and it will do that for you. Okay? So, then, and you can even test yourself afterwards, with their recommendations. It's very nice. Okay, I mean, is it perfect? No. I mean, but I think honestly, and do you see how when we let's say have a position here, you see how it's showing games that happened in this position? Okay, against the strongest players too. We can also look at our games ever. So I never had this exact position. Okay, now we can look at master games. From the master, they all played King T2. Now, how did these guys with white, who are 22 and 2300, play this? I think intoxication is your only answer here, but I don't know. In any case, the point is there's a lot of nice features on Elite Chess that I like a lot.
Well, then the rook
You
can.
drank the rook that way.
Oh, you want to try to trap? You want to do this?
No,
Oh,
that
sorry.
wasn't big. I'm not that smart.
Oh.
Just try queen two. And assuming what takes the rook.
Oh, clever. If they take the rook, white wins. Because they're picking up this rook and the knight's pin.
Huh?
Very clever, Ken. Yeah, these tactical geniuses, I have trouble dealing with them. So, no, but the point is, in a lot of these positions, it's not. I'm not, advocating everyone should play in a certain way. What I'm trying to show to you is there's different ways to play. I mean, for instance, if you wanted to try to play more endgames, okay, you can also play that same concept here. And if white plays c4, this is actually a very popular line for black. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I guess this is the question I had on if I'm trying stuff out. Like right now, I'm like, okay, like you said, oh, I heard that this is a good move, my h4 thing.
Right.
But then, yeah, that's like, okay, what's the follow-up that it's context sensitive? How can I be more, like, how can I make that more of a deliberate learning experience? Whereas right now, it feels like it's just
It
I mean,
depends.
I analyze the games after, and I see, okay, I should have played this move.
Okay.
But in terms of like the long-term themes and stuff,
Well, no. So here's the thing. For instance, with Lee Chess, which I don't get any money from them. Okay. I'm just saying they've got some good stuff here. You'll notice that you see how I open the master database. So I'm looking for the more sophisticated way. If we look in the Lee Chess database, the most popular move by far, even if we're looking just over 2,200, and you see what I'm saying, all the way up to 3,000, the most popular move is DE. Okay. Whereas if we look in the master database, they don't think this way. They're after E5, they realize this doesn't give them anything. It's actually worse. This position is worse than the positions we were discussing. And let me just explain for completeness why. Okay, in this position, you'll notice, if you look at the dark squared bishop for black and the light squared bishop for black, they have awesome diagonals. If we look at white's bishops, we have no clue where they're going. Literally, we have no clue. I mean, the light squared bishop is blocked by its c4 pawn. Okay, the dark squared bishop, where are we going to put it? G5 so we can get f6? Where is it going? It seems pointless. If we try to grab space with e4, we just more limits. We put more limits on our light squared bishop, and we're going to weaken the d4 square. There's going to be friends showing up. Okay, so no, this is a very challenging pawn structure for white, and I think that, well, if we look in the master database, 50% wins for black, 42% draws, and some infinitesimal 8, I guess is the math. For white, that kind of stinks. I'm not playing with white move. I'm going for a move 3, a line that has an 8% win rate expectancy for me. No, I think I'll pass. Thanks. So, but we could see what should have happened by looking at the master database. In fact, if we, let's say, went a little farther, okay, it's showing right here. So in this position, you see how they have grandmaster games? Michael Kresnikov, he's a very strong GM. Well, we can just click on these. Pretty please? Yeah, okay. So we can just click on this and see how did he handle this position with black. Okay? What were his?
yeah,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Okay, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at the games. We can look at the best players. You may see Ali Ferrugia or Magnus Carlsen playing on League Chess. I mean, I'm sure you see them playing on chess.com too. But I'm saying by looking at their games, you can see in a position what they're doing and get ideas. So, Matt.
So besides, let's say people go into endgames, let's say if we have general principles about converting advantages, there are +2
Right.
in opening travel, versus what have you. Can you give us guidelines of how to convert advantage from point A to point B or to finish the game, or not? Like this is where like stepping stones, pretty much.
Okay, so here's the thing. There's multiple ways. If you looked at some of the positions we had,
Yeah.
some of the ways we could achieve that conversion very easily and smoothly with a transition to the end game. But in some cases, I've seen people take something that's very winning, very simple, and transition to an end game that's a nightmare to win.
Yeah.
Okay, so having some knowledge of which is like having tools in our toolbox. Okay, we can go a lot of different ways. That's why when some people tell me, I've had students in the past say, "Well, I'm not really an end-game player. I don't know if I can, let's embrace it. You have to embrace it because the whole thing that I was trying to, when you're trying to make this journey by playing online, there's simple ways like, oh, I'm just going to do all these puzzles and tactics, and everyone does that. If everyone does that, it cancels it out at a certain point. So it's hard to gain ground on people doing the exact same thing as you. So by doing different things, plugging different leaks in your game, and to me that's the perfect analogy. It's not like Rocky out there training and doing push-ups and doing all this stuff to win the fight. No, it's like making sure this boat doesn't have any leaks so it can get across the ocean and not die. Okay, because if you can't play an end game, boy, that's a serious leak. The guy you're beating him, he goes to the end game, you lose. Okay, so it's not good. Okay, you have to have an understanding about positional chess, tactical, openings, end game, the full, structures, everything. If you don't have a complete understanding of what you're doing, you just leave yourself open to be exploited in one way or the other. You'll see players who, in some ways, wow, this guy is just a tactical genius. He's like 2,400, but puts all his pieces on a stupid square. Thank goodness. Okay. So no, it's funny because there was a player from Rochester he was very quick. He was actually New York State speed chess champion at one time. And he used to do funny things with the pieces too. He would screw them in each time he moved. And he was playing Laszlo Tapasta. And Laszlo says, it's okay though, he's screwing those pieces in. He always screws them in on terrible squares. Right. Okay? But the player he was talking about was just a tactical genius. So, everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. It's easy to just focus on the things we like and we do well and neglect those other things. Yeah. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for coming, and I was given that's it, cut. Okay, so have a great evening, guys. Good luck with your